Hey humans, welcome to Read to Me, Matt Dunn. I'm Matt Dunn, and I'm going to read to you. We are reading Pride and Prejudice by Jane the Austen. We are on chapter 18, part 1, assuming, because there's going to be 4 parts. I've already decided. Big chapter. Big chapter. So lots happening. Let's get into it, right? We want to hear the words. Till Elizabeth entered the drawing room at Netherfield and looked in vain for Mr. Wickham among the cluster of red coats there assembled, a doubt of his being present had never occurred to her. The certainty of meeting him had not been checked by any of those recollections that might not unreasonably have alarmed her. She had, just make sure my mic was down. She had dressed with more than usual care and prepared in the highest spirits for the conquest of all that remained unsubdued of his heart, trusting that it was not more than might be won in the course of the evening. But in an instant arose the dreadful suspicion of his being purposely omitted for Mr. Darcy's pleasure in the Bingley's invitation to the officers. And though this was not exactly the case, the absolute fact of his absence was pronounced by his friend, Mr. Denny, to whom Lydia eagerly applied, and who told them that Wickham had been obliged to go to town on business the day before and was not yet returned, adding with a significant smile, "I do not imagine his business would have called him away just now if it had not wished to avoid a certain gentleman here." Probably not. This part of his intelligence, though unheard by Lydia, was caught by Elizabeth. And as it assured her that Darcy was not less answerable for Wickham's absence than if her first surmise had been just, every feeling of displeasure against the former was so sharpened by immediate disappointment, that she could hardly reply with a tolerable civility to the polite inquiries which he directly afterwards approached to make. Tomako Capaco. Read the book, whatever. You can't hear me, right? You can hear me. To make. Attention, forbearance, patience with Darcy was injury to Wickham. She was resolved against any sort of conversation with him, and turned away with a degree of ill humor which she could not wholly surmount, even in speaking to Mr. Bingley, whose blind partiality provoked her. Fucking Bingley. But Elizabeth was not formed for ill manner, unformed. And though every prospect of her own was destroyed for the evening, it could not dwell long on her spirit, and having told all her griefs to Charlotte Lucas, whom she had not seen for a week, she was so able to make a voluntary transition to the oddities of her cousin, and to point him out to her particular notice. The 2 first dances, however, brought a return of distress. They were dances of mortification. Mr. Collins, awkward and solemn, apologizing instead of attending, and often moving wrong without being aware of it, gave her all the shame and misery which a disagreeable partner for a couple of dances can give. The moment of her release from him was ecstasy. Yes, she's gonna find a fucking bathroom to sit in. You gotta fucking get away from this guy. Just you're busy. Mr. Wickham's not there, so you might as well just leave the fucking party. Unless you want to go talk to Darcy. We all know you're gonna fucking probably end up starting a fight with him. Be like, "Yo, Darcy, what's up, bro?" She's like, "I'm gonna come at you, bro." You want to dance? You want to dance? You want to dance with me? You rich man. She danced next with an officer and had the refreshment of talking of Wickham and of hearing that he was universally liked. When those dances were over, she returned to Charlotte Lucas and was in conversation with her, when she found herself suddenly addressed by Mr. Darcy, who took her so much by surprise in his application for her hand, that without knowing what she did, she accepted him. He walked away again immediately, and she was left to fret over her own want of presence of mind. Charlotte tried to console her. I dare say you will find him very agreeable. It's okay. Heaven forbid, that would be the greatest misfortune of all. To find a man agreeable whom one is determined to hate. Do not wish me such an evil. When the dancing recommenced, however, and Darcy approached to claim her hand, Charlotte could not help cautioning her in a whisper not to be a simpleton, and allow her fancy for Wickham to make her appear unpleasant in the eyes of a man of 10 times his consequence. Elizabeth made no answer and took her place in the set, amazed at the dignity to which she was arrived in being allowed to stand opposite to Mr. Darcy, and reading in her neighbor's look their equal amazement in beholding it. Ooh, so because of Darcy's like the Grinch of the group, the Scrooge of the Dooge. How you got it? Scrooge, Splooge, Splooge. Scrooge Splooge. He is the Scrooge Splooge, and she is the goo be gone. That stuff you wipe away with stickers and boogers and stuff. And they're like, what's going on? There's about to be a dance-off. Everyone, just you be yourselves, and everyone's going to watch you. They stood for some time without speaking a word, and she began to imagine that their silence was to last through the 2 dances, and at first was resolved not to break it, till suddenly fancying that it would be the greater punishment to her partner to oblige him to talk, she made some slight observation on the dance. He replied, and was again silent. After a pause of some minutes, she addressed him a second time with, "It is your turn to say something now, Mr. Darcy. I talked about the dance, and you ought to make some kind of remark on the size of the room or a number of couples." He smiled and assured her that whatever she wished him to say should be said. Very well, that reply will do for the present. Perhaps by and by I may observe that private balls are much pleasanter than that public ones. But now we may be silent. Do you talk by rule then, while you are dancing? Sometimes. One must speak a little, you know. It would look odd to be entirely silent for half an hour together. And yet, for the advantage of some, conversation ought to be so arranged that they may have the trouble of saying as little as possible. Are you consulting your own feelings in the present case, or do you imagine that you are gratifying mine? Both, replied Elizabeth, artly. For I have always seen a great similarity in the turn of our minds. We are each of an unsocial, taciturn disposition, unwilling to speak unless we expect to say something that will amaze the whole room and be handed down to posterity with all the eclat of a proverb. Oh, that is no very striking resemblance of your own character, I am sure. How near it may be to mine, I cannot pretend to say. You think it a faithful portrait, undoubtedly. I must not decide on my own performance. He made no answer, and they were again silent till they had gone down the dance, when he asked her if she and her sisters did not very often walk to Meryton. She answered in the affirmative, and, unable to resist the temptation, added, when you met us there the other day, we had just been forming a new acquaintance. The effect was immediate. A deeper shade of hauteur overspread his features, but he said not a word. And Elizabeth, though blaming herself for her own weakness, could not go on. At length, Darcy spoke, and in a constrained manner said, Mr. Wickham is blessed with such happy manners as may ensure his making friends. Whether he may be equally capable of retaining them is less certain. And then this is Elizabeth. He has been so unlucky as to lose your friendship, replied Elizabeth with emphasis, and in a manner which he is unlikely to suffer from all his life. Darcy made no answer, and seemed desirous of changing the subject. At the moment, Sir William Lucas appeared close to them, meaning to pass through the set to the other side of the room, but on perceiving Mr. Darcy, he stopped with a bow of superior courtesy to compliment him on his dancing and his partner. I've been most highly gratified indeed, my dear sir. Such a very superior dancing is not often seen. It is evident that you belong to the first circles. Allow me to say, however, that your fair partner does not disgrace you, and that I must hope to have this pleasure often repeated, especially when a certain desirable event, my dear Elizabeth, glancing at her sister, and Bingley, shall take place. What congratulations will then flow in? I appeal to Mr. Darcy. But let me not interrupt you, sir. You will not thank me for detaining you from the bewitching conversation, that young lady whose bright eyes are so also upbraiding me. The latter part of this, there's a guy. Let's do part 2 there. Yeah, so what do you think? What'd you think? Darcy, Mr. Darcy, is like, why did he ask her to dance? Just for pride's sake? His family pride? He's got to dance with somebody. It's his party, and he might as well dance with the girl that he has his eye on. We all know. It's plain as day. His mind is cluttered with thoughts and frustrations. Oh, you're like, God, I can't stop thinking about that girl. She's frustrating me. And you're like, oh, you like her? You're like, no, she's a fucking bitch. She just can't. I can't get her out of my head. I just want to fucking. Oh, grr. It's like, somebody likes her. Like, oh, no. Yeah, you do. Anyway, if you'd like for me to keep reading, please check out some more of my videos. Hit the thumbs up button if you like. Subscribe if you want to keep updated with all my new videos every day. Did I say write some comments down below? Let me know what you think. Yeah, why'd you do that? Let me know what you think. I'll see you tomorrow.